Alrighty, we are going to go over how to find a good trade. And the place that I usually start is at the 4-hour chart, just to kind of get a big picture view of what we're looking at here. And we can see that it has been uptrending, and then lately it formed a lower high here and made a drop and actually broke through the 180 SMA and then dipped down, and now it is starting to head up again. And so we are kind of in a recovery mode here, and you can see on this chart, if we zoom just a little bit, this is now making a higher high than the last peak right here, which was a little bit lower than the last one. So we're definitely in a recovery mode. However, just because it's in a recovery mode doesn't mean that it's going to continue to go up from here. So we need to be wary of this and expect that it might drop down and test a low, which needs to be higher than this point, which is quite a ways down there. And then it would have to go up again at that point in order to continue the recovery mode. All right, so with that in mind, it is heading up, but we need to be watching for a downturn. And we can actually go back. Let's go ahead and put in a line or a box. How about that? We'll just kind of put in an area. This is the area that we suspect that it will test again, and we'll write that down. Retest area for a drop. Okay. All right, so then we zoom into the 1-hour chart and we can kind of see a little bit more. All right, and we're looking at the highs that it's made here and here and here, and now it's trying to make a new high. So now we go back to find out where it might peak out, and we can see that this over here is the last place, the last high that it went to, and I'm going to draw a box down to the bottom of these last lows right through here. This area is really, really big, and it's kind of I don't know, it's too big of an area to really be super useful, but that's kind of where it's at. So then we're going to label this area. All right. Okay, so now that we've got those two areas marked out, we're going to zoom into the 30, just kind of see where it's at. And I like to also label where the SMAs are, and I forgot to show you that on the 1-hour chart. I put the 20 SMA, which seems to be where it's kind of bouncing off of. You can see it's interacting with that here and here. As soon as it broke through that 20 SMA, it seems to be, I know the wicks have dropped below it on occasion, but it does seem to be kind of a support area, especially since it's already hit it 2 times. This third time, it's going to be a little bit stronger of a support area. So I marked that SMA there. And then we zoom into the 15-minute chart. These boxes here, you can see it starts at 1900 and ends at 2, and that is the Asia trading session right through here. All right, and this is just the London Open, which starts at 3 and ends at 4 in the morning. So what's interesting about the Asia session and the London session is it kind of gives us a picture of what's going to happen when you have the New York Open, which is where we're at because we're on the East Coast. And that's the opening bell right here. It's actually just a smidge after the shaded area here. All right, so the action that happened during the Asia Open, it went up, and then it actually broke through the top of it right after the closing bell. And then the London Open actually opened inside the Asia Open. It opened right at the peak there. Let me zoom into the 5-minute chart so you can see this a little bit better. All right, so the London Open was right at the top of this candle right through here, which is exactly where the Asia close, the high of the Asia session, I should say, happened. And then it dropped and then started forming higher highs. And then after that opening bell, it found a low and then started making higher highs, and then it retested it, went a little bit lower, and then it went up, and at opening bell for the New York session, it blew through the Asia high and the London high. And the peak that it made in the in between hours there, and it made a new high way up here. So what we see now is that this is now the point where I think it probably will peter out. In fact, I don't really like to use these. I like to use the alerts. So we're going to put an alert in there. That way it just disappears when it blows through it. Okay, so it made a peak, it went through, found support, and it is no coincidence that this support area right through here encompasses this Asia high area right through here. And there's a lot of orders right through here that held it up above the SMAs and held it up from dropping. So then it went up, made a lower high. That's kind of critical there. And then it found support again, and now it's heading up. So now, this is actually the move that I've been waiting for. We're going to zoom in to the 1 minute chart here, and I've started to place an order here. I've got the take profit and stop loss. So basically I want to figure out where is a good place to get in at this point. And I was waiting for it to hit that SMA and then start to make a move up. So had I been able to catch that movement, which I think I could have gotten in about this point right here, and then my take profit I would have put here, which should have been $325, and my stop loss I would have put down here, which is at 150. That would have been a good trade. That's a 1 to 2 trade. I could even bring it up to this point right here if I really wanted to be a little more daring, and it's possible that it will get up there. But more than likely it will peter out right here, and for me that is a good trade, and that's what I try to like to go for. I like to try to go for the little bit smaller trades instead of waiting it out, and it's just too nerve-wracking. I like to just get out a little bit sooner. And on the ES, it's pretty easy to find a move that's going to be one leg of a move that's going to be around $250, $300 before it hits a level where it has to kind of think about things. All right, so let's just kind of look at this trade and see, is it going to hit that point where I think it's going to get out? All right, so we're going to set an alert. So let's say I got in, there we go. Let's say I got in down here as soon as I started to see it heading up. All right, look at that. It didn't quite make it. When it started to slow down right there, I might have been tempted to drop that down and try to catch it, but more than likely I would have gotten out, maybe 230, 237, something like that, just before this big red candle formed. Okay, so because it's on the 1 minute chart, sometimes it gets a little worrisome looking at the individual candles, and that is one problem with trading on the 1 minute chart. If we go to the 5 minute chart here, right there, and let's see what it looks like. Oh yeah, that was way back there. So I wouldn't have even seen that red candle. Does that make sense? This drop right here on the 1 minute chart, that just completely disappeared. So I wouldn't have, as long as it didn't drop below this SMA, I think I would have been just fine. I wouldn't have been worried about it. And sure enough, it's heading up, and if it surpasses this high, it's very possible it will blow on through that. And we have to look way back here. Let's go back to the 5 minute chart so we don't have so many candles to wade through here. The next high is, like I said, it's going to be right in this area right through here, which is pretty high up there. So I'm not seeing an awful lot of, support areas right through here or stops. There is a band right through here, but that's kind of ancient history. Let's go ahead and mark it since that's kind of close to where we are. is a possibility. Let me change the settings on that to, let's say, yellow. How about that? Something different. All right, so I'm seeing a lot of orders right through there. It's possible that we are going to have some sort of resistance right in that area there. All right, so it's very possible that before it reaches up to this point, which is way up there, that's still like 25 points up above where we are now. It will peter out at that point. Okay, so how do you want to play this? Well, you want to make sure you get into a good place, which is not where it's at right now. So at this point, we would want to wait for it to hit possibly this area right through here and then make it drop and then get in at this place down here, 98.17 or 68.17, excuse me. So, and it's possible that this little area right through here is where it's going to drop to and retest. So we're going to put an alert kind of at the upper area of that, maybe even just a little bit higher so I can watch it and get in. All right, so my guess is it's going to go up here, and maybe I will even just draw where I think it's going to go. I think it's going to go up here, and then it's going to come down and retest this area, and then it will retest that and possibly go on up at that point. All right, so let's come back and see if I am correct on seeing this. Alrighty, it has just reached the bottom of that area that I was talking about, and we will see what happens now. I'm suspecting that it's going to be dropping. Wait, we're seeing a bit of a drop here. So I'm thinking it's going to drop down to this yellow SMA right through here, and I'm going to bring up that alert just a little bit there. All right, it didn't get down very far, and then it headed up here, and then it retested this level right here, which I think is kind of interesting. So we're going to go out and look at where that box came from. It's very tenuous, I would say. As a matter of fact, kind of feel like putting it up here is better. But again, it's not the best of areas because it surpassed that point. It's not horrible. It's not horrible because you can kind of see that's where it tested that area again. So somewhat valid for right now, but I do suspect that it is not going to get above that point. But whether it drops down, I'm not sure anymore. It does seem to be making new highs there. So it's possible that that is all it will do. So if we placed a trade right here, would this be a good trade? Not really. But let's see if it would work out. Let's put it up here. And then we'll put the stop loss down here. $200 to $425. All right. And let's see what happens. You know what? Since it just surpassed this last high, I think it's maybe a better trade than I thought. Let's go ahead and try to get in. And it's already almost too late because I've kind of missed the movement there.
Order filled.
All right, let's give it a shot. Now, I actually have a stop set on my trade account that will block me out when it drops down to 35.50. So that would be right at that point. So I'd rather not risk that necessarily. The other thing that we can do, and I'm going to try to kill some time so I don't freak out here. Let's go out and look at the 5-minute chart. And it's still heading up but losing momentum. So yeah, I don't think this was the best of trades, to be right honest about it. But anyway, what I was going to say was I sometimes use the Fibonacci lines as well when you're kind of in uncharted territory like this a little bit. It's not completely uncharted, but close. right, so the first point would be here, which is the low. And then the second point would be the high, and then the low. All right, so in this case, what is it telling us? It's telling us it surpassed that point, and the next point up there is really, really high. So you can see the one right here is where it often makes it to, and that's very interesting. The next one up there is actually at the lower point of that. Let me go out to the 15-minute chart here of that area that I thought would be the next high it would reach. So that's very interesting, actually. So, I mean, that's the only reason to think that this might be a decent trade. I just might be in drawdown for a little while. I don't know. It looks like I'm still sitting right at break even there. So it's a little bit of a risky trade, honestly. So we'll just see how it plays out. I don't know. So far, so good. One thing we can do to mitigate any kind of loss is when it gets up high enough, I can raise my stop to eliminate any kind of a loss whatsoever. And I think I might actually do that at this point because it's going up very nicely, beautifully. Wow. All right. And when it gets up to, you know, a few $100s, I want to lock in that profit and then just let it ride. Now, the other way that I look at this too is I might get out at a smaller profit than I had originally intended. You know, when it reaches 200, I'm like, oh, that's really good for today. As you know, the amount of trading that I'm doing today, I'd just be happy with that. And I would just get out at a smaller dollar amount. So that's the other way I might move on this trade. So the initial prediction that I made was that it was going to be dropping down to this level, and it just never did, which is kind of why I decided to get into a trade that was not necessarily in the best entry area. So, oh wow. It's already almost up to that point. That's so cool. All right, so I think I would like to lock in some profit here. And we're going to lock in that much right there, which is $200. So either I make 200 or I make whatever that would be. I was thinking it was close to 400, but let's see. 300. All right, I made 200.
Stop filled.
Stop filled, not bad for a weird sort of trading day. Very happy with that. So that's a pretty typical trade for me. I usually bring up my stop because I get to a point where it's like, man, I really would hate to lose that much profit that I've already made, even though I think it's getting up here. I still think it's getting up there. So I'll bring up my stop and usually get stopped out, which is kind of a sad way to trade, but it's more conservative and pretty consistent, honestly. So anyway, I think I'm going to be done. Cool. See you after Thanksgiving.